The year is 1941. World War II rages across Europe and Asia. Amidst the chaos and carnage, a new term emerges: World War III. The phrase, first appearing in a 1941 issue of Time magazine, reflects the growing anxiety of a world consumed by conflict. The concept of a Third World War, even as the Second raged on, spoke to the unprecedented scale and devastation of modern warfare. It hinted at the terrifying possibility that such global conflicts might become a recurring feature of the 20th century and beyond. The term World War III captured the imagination of a generation grappling with the horrors of war. It served as a stark reminder of the fragility of peace and the ever-present potential for conflict on a global scale. The phrase also highlighted the interconnectedness of the modern world, where events in one corner of the globe could have far-reaching consequences. The specter of World War III loomed large in the aftermath of World War II. The development of nuclear weapons, with their unimaginable destructive power, added a new layer of anxiety to the concept of a Third World War. The Cold War, spanning from the end of World War II until the early 1990s, marked a period of heightened global tension. The United States and the Soviet Union, each possessing nuclear arsenals, engaged in a high-stakes standoff. This rivalry extended across multiple domains, including ideology, economics, and military might. Proxy wars, such as the Korean War and the Vietnam War, served as flashpoints in this global struggle. The threat of nuclear war cast a long shadow over the Cold War era. Both superpowers developed elaborate strategies for deterring and, if necessary, fighting a nuclear war. The concept of mutually assured destruction, or MAD, emerged, suggesting that any nuclear exchange would result in the annihilation of both sides. The Cold War witnessed a relentless arms race, with both superpowers striving for technological and numerical superiority in their nuclear arsenals. This arms race fueled a climate of fear and uncertainty, as the world watched anxiously for any sign of escalation. Despite the ever-present threat of nuclear war, the Cold War remained a Cold War. Direct military confrontation between the superpowers was avoided, largely due to the deterrent effect of nuclear weapons. Throughout the Cold War, both NATO and the Warsaw Pact conducted numerous military exercises to prepare for a potential World War III. These exercises, often involving thousands of troops and sophisticated weaponry, aimed to simulate the complexities of a global conflict. They provided valuable training for military personnel and insights for strategists. Operation Unthinkable, a British plan developed in 1945, envisioned a surprise attack on Soviet forces in Europe. The plan, ultimately deemed too risky, highlighted the West's early concerns about Soviet expansionism. Exercise Grand Slam, conducted by NATO in 1952, simulated a Soviet invasion of Western Europe. The exercise involved over 200,000 troops and tested NATO's ability to respond to a large-scale Soviet attack. Longstep and Main Brace, naval exercises conducted in 1952, demonstrated NATO's naval capabilities in the North Atlantic. These exercises aimed to deter Soviet aggression and reassure NATO allies of the alliance's commitment to their security. Exercise Strikeback, another major NATO exercise in 1957, simulated a Soviet attack on Europe and the North Atlantic. It involved over 200 ships, 650 aircraft, and 75,000 personnel. Exercise Reforger, or Return of Forces to Germany, conducted annually from 1969 to 1988, focused on reinforcing NATO's presence in Europe. These exercises demonstrated the United States' commitment to defending its European allies and served as a deterrent to Soviet aggression. The exercises involved deploying large numbers of U.S. troops and equipment to Europe, testing NATO's ability to rapidly reinforce its forces in a crisis. The fall of the Soviet Union in 1991 marked the end of the Cold War and, with it, the perceived immediacy of a global conflict between superpowers. However, the concept of World War III did not disappear. Instead, it evolved, reflecting new geopolitical realities and emerging threats. The 21st century brought with it new anxieties about the potential for global conflict. The rise of non-state actors such as terrorist organizations introduced a new dimension to global security concerns. The September 11, 2001 attacks demonstrated the capacity of such groups to inflict significant damage and sow widespread fear. The proliferation of weapons of mass destruction, including nuclear, chemical, and biological weapons, further heightened anxieties about the potential for catastrophic conflict. The emergence of new technologies, such as cyber warfare and artificial intelligence, added further layers of complexity to the global security landscape. Cyber attacks, capable of disrupting critical infrastructure and undermining national security, became a growing concern. The development of autonomous weapon systems raised ethical and strategic questions about the future of warfare. Section 5. The Nuclear Threat, a Legacy of Dread. Despite the end of the Cold War, the threat of nuclear war persists. While the global nuclear arsenal has shrunk considerably since its peak during the Cold War, thousands of nuclear weapons remain. The potential for accidental or unauthorized use, as well as the possibility of nuclear terrorism, continues to pose a significant threat to global security. The nuclear powers, particularly the United States and Russia, bear a special responsibility to reduce their nuclear arsenals and prevent the proliferation of nuclear weapons. International treaties, such as the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons, play a crucial role in limiting the spread of nuclear weapons. The humanitarian consequences of a nuclear war would be catastrophic. The use of even a single nuclear weapon would result in widespread death and destruction. The long-term effects of radiation would continue to harm populations for generations to come. Section 6. The Cyber Domain, a New Battlefield. The 21st century witnessed the emergence of cyberspace as a new domain of warfare. Cyber attacks launched by state and non-state actors alike have the potential to disrupt critical infrastructure, cripple economies, and sow discord within societies. The interconnectedness of the digital world means that cyber attacks can have far-reaching consequences, transcending national borders with ease. The anonymous nature of cyber attacks makes attribution difficult, adding to the complexity of deterring and responding to such attacks. The line between peacetime espionage and acts of war in cyberspace can be blurry, creating ambiguity and increasing the risk of miscalculation. International cooperation is essential to establish norms of behavior in cyberspace and prevent the escalation of cyber conflicts. Governments, private companies, and individuals all have a role to play in securing cyberspace and mitigating the risks of cyber warfare. Section 7. The Price of Conflict, Imagining the Unimaginable. The consequences of a global conflict in the 21st century would be devastating. The use of nuclear weapons, even on a limited scale, would result in unimaginable death and destruction. The long-term effects of radiation would poison the environment and harm human health for generations to come. Beyond the immediate impact of nuclear detonations, a global conflict would likely trigger a cascade of catastrophic consequences. Economic collapse, widespread famine, and the breakdown of social order would follow. The displacement of millions of people would create a humanitarian crisis of unprecedented scale. The psychological toll of a global conflict, particularly one involving nuclear weapons, would be profound. The trauma of witnessing mass death and destruction would leave lasting scars on individuals and societies alike. The fear and uncertainty surrounding such a conflict would erode trust and cooperation, making it difficult to rebuild a shattered world. Section 8. Avoiding the Abyss. Diplomacy and the Quest for Peace. The best way to prevent World War III is to avoid the conditions that could lead to such a conflict. Diplomacy, dialogue, and cooperation are essential to address global challenges and resolve disputes peacefully. International institutions such as the United Nations provide a forum for nations to engage in dialogue and seek common ground. Building trust and understanding between nations is crucial to reducing tensions and preventing conflict. Educational and cultural exchanges can foster empathy and break down barriers between peoples. Promoting respect for human rights and the rule of law can create a more just and peaceful world. The specter of World War III serves as a stark reminder of the fragility of peace and the importance of pursuing peaceful solutions to international disputes. The lessons learned from past conflicts, particularly the horrors of World War II, should guide us towards a future where dialogue, cooperation, and diplomacy prevail.